Okay, now we really have to have equanimity. Get the camera to work. So that's what we're talking about lately, and it's what I'm continuing to work with in my practice. And I guess because I'm studying the teachings that we're having with Jeffrey Hopkins and with Venerable Children, that's kind of naturally coming into what I'm thinking about. So last time we were talking about conceptual appearances and how these things just rise up. We have these images and they're so solid, and then we tear them down and they whoop, reassert. You know, we can take them all apart and then boop, they're back. So that was kind of, felt quite a bit on the side of the interior of the mind. And we, in thinking about it that way, we recognize that we're doing that. But there's some things that maybe are harder to recognize. So that's what, for me, it's been harder to recognize. I wanted to speak about it a little bit today. I have to back up a little bit and say, what is equanimity? You know, this feeling of open-hearted concern equally for everyone. So we're trying to have this experience, this feeling, tone within our heart and mind. And then we get to watch all the things that get in the way of that as we run our experiments on the meditation cushion. And so I've had the thought for a long time that our cognitive functioning is set up in a way that we tend to categorize and stereotype and things like that. I think we have I think we're a little bit wired to do that in some aspects of our psyche. And that creates a lot of problems because we oftentimes we forget that we've made the categories, and you know, I think it creates a lot of problems, and it can create a lot of disharmony, and the mind can not be equanimous at all. But I think even deeper than that is this tendency we have to reify things. And so that's what I wanted to look at today a little bit, especially in terms of preconceptions that we have. So this is really a very fruitful thing to think about in meditation. So what is really going on when we have preconceptions? And how do we even come to the place where we might even be able to recognize them? Well, for me, what I did this morning is I thought about the feeling of equanimity and putting my mind there, and then like, well, what do I do that gets in the way? And I know sometimes I'll even say out loud something like, this is really too much. This is really too much. And I'll say it inside, and sometimes I say it outside, and it's usually regarding a situation. So this situation is really too much. And I'm pretty frustrated when I get to the point of saying that out loud, and it usually comes up in regards to construction projects. And all the things that are happening, I'm like, this is really too much. I've had it up to here. There's no equanimity in the mind then. So this is a really good example to look at. So what is going on then? And so I took some of those and tore them apart this morning, and I recognize that I'm bringing a lot of preconceptions into this situation, and then I'm seeing the situation as over there. That situation over there is really too much. It exists from its own side, and it's too much. And this is what Jeffrey was talking about in our last, a few teachings ago, about we set things up over there. They're over there. They're existing over there. And we forget that we posited them. This is the whole conversation when Venerable asked them about what is to posit. We impute them. We're creating them. We've kind of colored the whole thing. And a lot of it is our preconceptions that we're not always aware of. And that's the great thing about sitting in meditation. And I had the luxury this morning of, I've been working on something that's been disturbing my mind. And this happened some weeks ago, but I haven't resolved it yet. This morning I got farther. And this is the value of this. It's like, what is the statement that is the preconception? And that's when I can, and I know what the statement is in this situation, but I still haven't been able to, you know, I knew the statement, but I actually believed it, actually. And so this morning, you know, I just like had to really see what, you know, it gave me the opportunity to look at all the preconceptions I'm putting in there, all these thoughts that I'm not aware of, but they resulted in this moment, this experience that I had. It was kind of like this. This is really too much. I didn't say that. I didn't even say it inside, but it's the same kind of feeling. The mind doesn't have any equanimity then. And so, yeah, I think this is a really helpful way. I mean, everyone's specifics of exactly what their situations is are going to be different, and exactly how you're construing things is going to be different. But the fact that we're doing this, you know, is, I think, quite universal. And that's why I say I think this is kind of how we're partially wired this way, but it's not the only way we're wired. We have the ability to look into this as we quiet our mind in meditation. So this is, for me, where, you know, keeping the mind, you know, doing breathing meditation or something to calm the mind, then this stuff, it just looks like this little play in front of you, and you start to watch it. And if I buy into it, I'm down the road and the emotions flood it. But if I can draw back from that and keep my mind more stable, I can just look at what's going on and say, wow, look at all these thoughts I brought into this situation, and even the emotions that they engender. And sometimes they're things that are quite under layers and layers. So this morning I became quite aware of fear, of, you know, failure, of things that, you know, so many of these things that I'm having fear about are not in my control. But then I realized, wow, but there's things that can help me to alleviate this fear. I can ask questions, I can make a few phone calls, I can get some more information. But unless I sit on the cushion and work this out, I'll just stay at this level of, this is really too much. And I'll just function in that domain. So I think this is one way to go about it, is try to take it apart that way. Good luck.